Hello. How are you this evening? I hope you're all having a good evening or morning, wherever you are in the world, or afternoon. Okay, hang on. I'm gonna have an accident if I don't. Sort that out. Welcome to live stream. This must be number 699. I don't know how many I've done, but it's a lot. Maybe more than that. So if I do 2 times 54 for 7 years, yeah, that's over 600 or 700. I can't work it out. I'm sure there's lots I've missed as well. But anyway, welcome to the live stream. Let me tell you how it works if you've never been on live stream before. I do these talks every Sunday at 6 p.m. French time. Until further notice, they've been suspended on Wednesdays, so I'm just doing them currently on Sundays. You're welcome to join. It's absolutely free of charge. You just go onto my YouTube channel at 6 p.m. French time, or go onto my website, and under live stream, it will also play there. And always check my website, because there's some days where I can't make it, and that's where I publish that. You can also subscribe to my YouTube channel, and then you'll get updates to your email box about when I go live, but you'd have to turn on your notifications for that to happen. What else? If you want to ask questions, then you can write to me on Skype. My Skype address is lisacairns12, and you can either write the message or you can call. But if you call, make sure you have a headset with a microphone and you have a connection to good internet. Please be aware if you call in or when you write in that these are going to be published onto YouTube, so take precaution as to how much you feel like you can expose on the internet. You can also change your name on Skype. I think you go to settings and you can change your name so it won't even be associated with your name. You can have like an alias like Donald Duck or Cheshire Cat or Werewolf. Yes. What else? If you want to join me for a live event, the next live event I'm doing is in Spain, a retreat. And this is the 23rd, I think, to the 30th of May. And that's in the south of Spain, in the mountains, just behind Malaga. It's a really beautiful spot. And the retreat center is kind of on the mountain slope. So you kind of are always walking up and down the hill to the different places in the retreat center. It's also an eco retreat center. So it's not like a big fancy hotel. It's very simple and basic, but it's beautiful. Everything's run by solar panels. It's all organic, locally grown food. And the people that own it are really beautiful. Their name is Rupert and, Julia. Sorry, Julia. Just went then. Yeah. And sometimes I talk about other books and I recommend things on my live talks like Osho chakra meditation. And you can find that on the references on my website. Often people are writing to me asking for me to send it to them, but you can find it all on my website. The only thing that I don't have on my website, which I will update at some point, is I don't have law of attraction stuff on there, but I've got stuff about sexuality, tantra, non-duality, Osho, yeah, trauma release. You can also book sessions with me. You can go to my website. I think I'm currently booked up until maybe the middle of June, but sometimes I have cancellations, so you can either write to me or you can keep checking my website, and I think I'm going to open up some ones as being a cancellation, so there might be some Mondays coming free. You can write to me and go on that waiting list. I can't think of anything else. Oh, there is another channel. So if you don't like all of this part, me like either pissing about, like going to the toilet, or talking nonsense, or doing the introduction part, there is another channel called Videoclip-Lisa Cairns, and it's a really great channel because what he does is he cuts and edits all my talks and uploads them to YouTube. So you can go on there and you can get a title and it will just be about that specific subject, which is really amazing that he does that. So if you sometimes find all of this part annoying, then you can subscribe to his channel. And I think it's an associated channel, so I think on my channel you can find it on the right hand side, but you can also look for it as well. And it's also on Facebook, I think. Yeah, it's really nice. It's not run by me, so if you write to him, his name is Osborne. Okay, and when I begin the talks, I always like to sit in silence for like 10, 15, 20 minutes. So you're welcome to join me. I don't specifically do anything when we sit in silence. I just sit and let whatever happens. But I understand that some people that are watching have never meditated before, and to them it seems ridiculous just sitting there like, what's the point? What are we doing? What are we learning? And it's just, to me, I find it a really beautiful way to let everything settle down, like normally we're doing and we're active, and it's just really beautiful to let everything settle. And it just naturally does if you stop for periods. Like in the olden days, like prior to 100 years ago, we didn't have all the entertainment that we had. So in the evenings, it would be reading or sitting in silence or smoking a pipe. I don't know what they did, but there was a lot less activity, crocheting. But I think this is really good for the mind. It's like a form of meditation. But now our form of meditation is watching TV, which is input, or playing a game, which is input, or surfing the internet, which is input, which is your mind is being active, it's doing something. So sitting in silence is just a way of, it's almost like, if you imagine you had like a jar of dirt and water, and you shake it all up, and then the whole water kind of becomes dirty. And then if you let it sit for a period, all the dirt sinks to the bottom, and then the water becomes like clear and pure again. You could imagine it like that. But that's what sitting in silence does. But if you're not used to it, sometimes when you first start sitting in silence, the mind can be really crazy and like jump around, like jumping from this subject and that subject, and like screaming for attention. And you can start getting into lots of negative thought patterns. And so often people think it's bad, like I mustn't sit in silence. It's like the enemy. So what you can do if you're finding that your mind is very troublesome is you can keep putting your attention back in the I am. And what I mean by the I am is presence. So is this moment, is life. It's really beautiful. It's love as well. And you can just keep moving your attention into this moment. And you might think that's you doing it, and you're like, but Lisa, there is no you. Who would be the you that does that? And it is true, there is no you, but there's an appearance of you that can and can't do things. The illusion is you believe that is you, and that you has free will and choice, and it doesn't have free will and choice, it's just a happening. But like I could give you instructions as to where the toilet was. If you're in a cafe, I could say, you go out that door, you turn left, and then you turn right, and your body follows the instructions. And you wouldn't be like, but there is no doer, who are you giving instructions to? Just like your body can follow instructions, it can also listen to what's being suggested here, and it can either do it or not do it. But again, it's not your choice. It's only a belief that you that's saying, okay, let's do what she says and put the attention back in the I am and keep moving it. The belief that that's you, that's not actually who you are. Who you are is consciousness, and that's a functioning happening in you. And you aren't the chooser, you aren't the doer. You're not the one that's making the choice to do this or not do this. It's appearing in who you are. And the appearance of free will doesn't actually mean there is free will. It is simply an appearance of free will, an appearance of choice. So it's an appearance of you putting an effort to move your attention back to the moment. But actually that's a functioning, and that's an illusion, that's you. So even though I'm seemingly giving prescription, in reality there can never be prescription. There can only ever be a description of something that may or may not happen. Which is really beautiful. So I give this advice, but I give this advice knowing that it's God's will as to whether that body-mind takes it on board. The other practice that you can do if you find the I am practice doesn't work for you is that you can follow the breath. So every time you breathe in and you feel the breath touching your nose, you count to 1. And you breathe out again, and then you follow it in. That's obviously 2 when you breathe in again, and 3 when you breathe in. And then 4 when you breathe in. And you just follow it with your attention. So going in through your lungs, to your diaphragm, to your tummy. Just all the sensations of it. And when you get to 10, you start again at 1. So you're counting your breath up to 10. And then when you get to 9, 10, then next one you start at 1 again. So this is such a simple exercise, but the really great part about it is that when you lose concentration, you'll count above 10. So you might go to 100. You might find you go to 100 because you'll automatically just keep counting. And so what's really great about it is like at what number do you realize and then come back to 10. So you have to concentrate in order to come back to 1 at number 10. And it's really good at focusing your mind. Amazing that we're never taught this type of thing, this focusing of mind. But at the whole time, all of this is being watched by consciousness, and that's who you truly are. So that one that's doing that practice is an experience, isn't the experiencer. And true non-duality is the movement back to who you are. To that wide open space of who you are. But that doesn't mean that the person doesn't do things to relax itself. And my theory is the more that the person relaxes, then the easier it is to hear non-duality. Not that it's anyone, but the illusory I, like it's like makes loads of clouds, so it's impossible to see the blue sky and the sun. So the blue sky and the sun represent like the consciousness of who you truly are. So the illusion, Louis self, is so dense, and in relaxing that person, the clouds become less dense, so it's easier to have a sense of who you are, even though it's not you that senses it. But for this shift to happen, sometimes it can be that when the person's really suffering, it then just has this big explosion and pops back to self. But often for most people, it's just a reduction of that illusion. And then at some point, there is this shift, this realization. Nice. Okay, so now we sit in silence. How do I say all that? I'm just going to turn the fridge off. I can hear it. Yeah, hello, okay, we begin. After all that sitting. To me, I find that really beautiful. By doing the sitting. Okay. So who are you? Was that the name of the talk? Who are you? The name of the talk today. So who are you? The question. So in these talks, you would be deceiving yourself if you believed that the talk's primary goal was to communicate something to you intellectually. This is absolutely not true. The talk isn't there to communicate something to you intellectually. That might happen as a side effect, that you understand things, and that might be relaxing for your mind, and it might also change the way in which you think. But actually, the talks are about a resonance which is deeper than the mind. You could say in some ways that the words are like an excuse to sit and share in this energy. It sounds really funny. In a way, you could say these talks are like a meditation, but it's not something that you actively participate in. It's happening beyond you. So what can happen in these talks is, even though I speak and I point to all these things, and you might have lots of intellectual realizations and understand things about yourself and understand things about your suffering, what can also happen is a resonance with something deeper, that who you are isn't something found in time. It isn't your body, your emotions, your ideas, your desires, your seeking, your suffering, your things, your objects, your job, your money, your bank balance. It isn't anything found in the world, but yet it's here in every experience. So when you wake up in the morning, normally what happens is there is a consciousness that's switched on, and then a couple of seconds later there is a remembrance of who you are that's switched on. So actually the consciousness isn't switched on, it's just in sleep. Consciousness is conscious of nothing, so therefore nothing happens. But then when you wake up, then there are things, and so suddenly there is something happening because there are things in which consciousness is conscious of. What the human thinks is that it wakes up, so that person wakes up, so you think that you as Tony or Jane or Alison or Mohammed wake up. Whereas actually you don't wake up because you've never existed. So that you has never actually existed, which is really funny and really beautiful, that you've never existed. So you've never woken up, you've never gone to the toilet, you've never cooked yourself dinner, you've never sat and listened to my talk, you've never ran in the rain, because you don't exist, the illusory you that you think you are. So in that moment of waking up, so suddenly there is the world and there is consciousness there. So it's not like you're unconscious, because if you're unconscious there would be nothing there. So there is consciousness that appears. But that consciousness is independent of the personality structure and who you believe yourself to be. So it's there. And then there is this illusory you that comes in that says, I just woke up. What time is it? What should I do? What have I got to do? I've got to go to work today. Oh, boo-hoo. I don't like going to work. Don't want to go to work. Meh, 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 meh. Or maybe it wakes up and it's like, woohoo, it's my birthday today. Where's the presents? Where's the presents? Whatever it is, it wakes up and thinks, that is an experience happening in who you are. That's not actually who you are. And this is why humans suffer, because of identification with self. This belief and this energy, this energetic contraction that appears inside the body, that is who you are. And that's not who you are. Who you are is what's happening, which is consciousness. It's the consciousness of what is, but the consciousness actually isn't separate from all things. It actually is all things. It just is seemingly looking through the body-mind mechanisms. But actually when you really go deep into it, but it's not even you that goes in deep into it, when there's a real sinking into it, it's seen that consciousness is all things. All things are consciousness. There is no inside and outside world. It is really miraculous and spectacular. There is no inside and outside world. There is only everything. So who you are is everything and also not one thing. So everything and nothing. You're not one thing. You're everything and you're also not one thing, which is magical, sensational. What else? I can't think of any big words like that. Magical, sensational, fantastical, fantastisch, fantastic, 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 fantastisch. So it is it is not you that's waking up in the morning. So what we're experiencing is we experience this storyteller inside the mind that also comes with lots of feelings and thoughts, and there is this identification with the storyteller and all the feelings and thoughts. And in that identification, it makes it feel like consciousness is like sucked in from everything and exists inside here and is looking out from inside the eyes. So it's like, hello, hello, hello. And it feels like you exist. So imagine, like, the reason that it happens to humans is because imagine anything that their whole life is saying you. Like, we're so easily conditioned. So if you're in an abusive relationship, you can be so easily conditioned and like scarred from that within like a year of the relationship. But you've got your whole life people saying you're responsible, your choices, your life. You, and then you've got yourself like me. So it gives the appearance that there is an I inside of there. And it's quite obvious that it's going to happen as soon as thinking happens, because we start saying me and you, and then we believe it's not even us, it's just this functioning takes over, which is like, this is true, there is a me and a you there. Whereas in actuality, there is no me or you there. There is only consciousness. And that's the same, even if you're identified or not identified, this is the same. There is only ever consciousness. So you might think that I'm speaking from somebody, I am a Lisa, I'm somebody you know as Lisa, and I'm speaking to you inside of your body. Whereas actually there is speaking happening, there is thoughts and there is feelings happening inside of consciousness. So it's actually consciousness speaking to consciousness. So actually you're speaking to yourself. It just feels like you're speaking to someone else because of the way in which you project and you tell yourself experiences. So then ask yourself this, and you can meditate and ponder on this, is have you ever experienced outside of consciousness? Have you ever experienced outside of experiencing? And the answer is no. You've never been like, hang on, consciousness just stand over there. Let me like, bloop, 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 bloop. I'm just going to walk off over here without consciousness. This over here. How would that happen? If you leave consciousness, you wouldn't be conscious. You wouldn't know what's happening. You'd be in deep sleep. Whereas deep sleep isn't the absence of consciousness. Deep sleep is the absence of things. So it's just that nothing's happening in deep sleep. So yeah, the question is have you ever experienced outside of it? That is what's always here in every experience, is consciousness, or everything. All there is everything, is this moment. Like you never step out of this moment. You never like step into the future or step into the past. It feels like you do because, so say after this you go for dinner and you think this is a different moment, but actually what's happening is you're having thoughts appearing of previous moments in your present moment. So it's all imagination. So you're actually you're actually always in one never-ending moment. Isn't that magical? So right from the moment you were born until now, you've only ever been in one moment. Actually, right into the beginning of the Big Bang, all the way through creation of Earth, the sun, the planets spinning around the sun, the moon, the first organism that appeared on the planet, first fishy, first reptile, first animals, dinosaurs, humans, Neanderthals. It's one ever moment. So in a way you could see it as like if everything joined hands and touched, like right back to the beginning of time and forward to the end of time. Like it's all in this one never-ending moment. And it's an illusion that it's one moment to another moment to another moment, and there's somebody there experiencing all these moments of your life. This is very narrow and dogmatic thinking, that you are someone experiencing all these moments and they're happening to you, and that you're separate from life. That is not your experience. That's a belief system, a dogmatic belief system that is taught through society and most probably is now passed on genetically, that you are experiencing a separate life from everybody else, and you're separate. Your experience and life doesn't reflect that back. In the appearance of life, the way that this life works is that it's all made up of these billions and trillions of atoms, all lining up in different way to give the appearance of difference. Then in life you see that one thing is always transforming into another, so you never find the end and the beginning of anything. Like, so if you got a microscope and looked in at my skin, you'd realize that my skin never has an edge. So you'd never find the edge of me in the beginning of world. The same with everything, you'll never find the edge of it. There seems like an edge when you look from here, you're like, this is table. And then you also see that like one thing transforms into another. So this is drink, now talk, turns into body. Which is really beautiful. So that's one way of seeing that everything is one energy, one. And then the other way is seeing that nothing is ever appearing outside of consciousness. It's all imagination. So the world out there, the planet, the sun, your friends, all of that is imagination. What the experience is always inside one consciousness. There is no two. And your consciousness doesn't end here, like my consciousness ends here and the world begins there. If that's true, then how do you experience the world? If your consciousness ends here and then there's world, like the consciousness has to meet all things. And as soon as you're conscious of something, it's appearing inside your consciousness. It's really beautiful. When you get really, really deep into it, you can even begin to lose the word consciousness, and you can begin to say nothing and everything. Like even consciousness becomes a concept. Like all there is no thing appearing as everything, and that is who you are. And even consciousness becomes a bit too conceptual. It's just this celebration of this. This is it. This is it. This is it. And that's actually really joyful. When I used to listen to Buddhist talks and non-duality talks, and do art and listen to music and do fun things when I was younger, it was all about trying to get home. Like all of it was about being in the moment, because in the moment there was love. So when I was listening to music that I really enjoyed, I disappeared and there was love. When I listened to a really beautiful speaker, there was just this moment vibrating. And it's completely complete in its mystery, in its not knowing. Yes. Doopy 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 doop. Okay. So I was emailed a question. So let's go to that question. Wow. Just got lots of bookings. I just opened my thing and saw lots of bookings. Okay, but I go to the question. Where is the question? Vera. So this is from Vera. She sent me a question through email, which is not a good way to send me questions. It's better on Skype because it's hard for me to remember all these emails and categorize them and remember them for my talk. But luckily I've remembered Vera's. She doesn't have Skype, so. I hope you get this message. For years now, I follow your YouTube sometimes, mostly when I'm out of reality and get feelings that show me not good direction. I do have one question, which for some part I can get answers by myself, but Lisa, how would you advise not to lose non-dual reality during daily life? How can I do this? Learn to get and to stay in the awareness of non-duality. When things seem to be so important sometimes, can we still realize reality all of the time? Or do we have to get lost in our doing, feeling, sensations? I guess not. More likely, I think it's sort of giving the heart and the reality priority in the first place. Then I would have to be open not to do things or to do them differently than I thought or than other people think. I realize there's a problem of adaptation. When I'm at work for earning money, there are so many things that people expect me to do, also in the family. So I guess it needs lots of patience, love, discipline also. In order to sort of install openings up for reality in any moment, it seems to me first we have to allow being in contact, realizing reality for ourselves, and then sort of also smartly find out how we can do so, that also in daily life we don't disturb ourselves and one another so much. We have wrong or no picture of reality. Think in terms of me and you, myself, yourself. Think this or that would have to be like this or that. Do you know what I mean? How can I get more often awareness, train my will to do so? Can I do that? Do you want to answer this? How do I know if you do and when? If you do, yeah. So, Mojo. Actually, there's nothing that you can do to get to yourself, because the you is appearing in who you truly are. So the you is an object that's being experienced by who you are. What can happen is when you put the attention in this moment, there is a sense of that. It can happen through joyful things or it can happen through practice. There is a sense of something bigger than yourself. So it's almost like it's touching it or it's relaxing the suffering, and there is this sense of something bigger. And it feels like your effort that you move your attention to this moment. And then what you believe is, you believe if I keep practicing that, I will one day get to non-dual realization. There will be some type of shift. But all of this is in your conceptual way of thinking. And it's not about you arriving at it, because who would arrive at it? So who would arrive at non-duality? Who are you? Which is really beautiful. There just is this non-dual reality, which is really disappointing for the person, because the person would rather be able to get it and do it and get there, because if it does, then it's got hope. And that hope actually can dissipate feelings of despair or feelings of emptiness, so that hope feels good, that you can do something to get somewhere. But who is this person? This is the most fundamental question. Who is this person that will arrive? Who is this person that's practicing? It's not in any way that I'm suggesting you don't move your attention to this moment. I think this can be really helpful and really beneficial for the person. It can settle the mind down, it can bring you lots of benefit, and can stop neurosis, but it's not going to get you anywhere, because you do not exist. So with this practice isn't about getting enlightened. This practice is about the relaxation of the illusory person. And in that relaxation, there can be this knowing of something that's beyond you, that when the person isn't so crazy or neurotic or in so much pain, there is this joy that can begin to manifest, this other reality that can begin to take over. But again, it's not you that does it. So then, really what you're asking me in the question, in your question, is not how do you get to non-duality or how do you get to this freedom. What you're asking actually is, I don't think you're really concerned about that. What you're asking is, how do I suffer less in my day-to-day living and not get so involved in what's happening around me? How do I suffer less? And there's many ways in which you can suffer less. Number one is getting to know the body-mind mechanism. Number two, practicing exercises like putting your attention back in this moment rather than it running into lots of dramatic stories. Number three is getting to know your chakras and what it is that you truly want. identifying what it is that your body's saying, and then focusing more on the positivity of what you want rather than the negativity of what you don't have. All of these super healing for the body. And there is a process to that, and this will settle down the person. And then as the person settles down, there can be, but not always the way, like life is really mysterious, we don't know how it's happening, but as you become happier, there can be this sense of something bigger. So really my recommendation is focus on becoming more happy and more balanced, and in that at some point non-dual realization will be heard. But it's not down to you, it's beyond you. Like you can't get to it, because you in a way is always out of this moment. It's always a thought about future or past, like you is never really here. But as that you, that illusory you becomes more happy, it begins to forget about itself. When the person's really suffering, it's like really thinking a lot about itself and contracted. So in your day-to-day life, you have to become more conscious of your body, more conscious of what it wants, and more conscious of the games that you're playing with people. The reason that it's uncomfortable is because, one, you could be an empath and you're very sensitive to the feelings around you, but two, also, and this is true for an empath as well, is that you don't focus enough on what you want in a beautiful way, not in a selfish and like contracted way, but in an expansive way. You're not focused so much on that. You're focused on what you should be, what you think you should be, what you think other people should be. And you could say that you focus more on blame, guilt, shame, pride, expectation, rather than every moment, what is it I want from this situation? Which is so powerful and beautiful. So I'm sure lots of you have heard in the past that I'm a fan of the law of attraction. I don't think law of attraction is a personal thing. I just think it's the nature of reality. That if you keep telling yourself you're a victim, then you're going to find perpetrators. And if you believe that you can do something, then you will be able to accomplish it. If you have this positivity and this beautiful belief. And actually, when you focus on what you want, what you truly want, it's actually very pleasurable and beautiful. You could say it's like a bliss, it's like love, it's super healing, not in a selfish way, like, or a contracted way, like I want the other person to stop moaning. Like that's a contracted one. I mean, like I want to have harmony with the other person, which is really expansive. I want us to experience harmony together and really beautiful. And most of the time, we're not focused on what we want. Most of the time, most people are focused on what they don't have and lack. And this creates immense seeking and suffering. And what this is doing, the wanting, is it's counteracting the opposite. So the practice of wanting. So if you feel really unloved, so you have a lot of pain in your chest, and when you're at work, you often feel like people are criticizing you or having lots of expectations of you. So if you feel very criticized and not good enough, then by focusing on more that it is you want rather than what it is you don't have, like noticing people criticizing you or the way they're treating on you or ways in which you're going to fail, you focus on more of what it is, of what you want. Like, I want to have a really successful and productive day today, which is open and it's expansive. I want to thrive. I want to get on with my colleagues. I want to appreciate my colleagues and my colleagues to appreciate me. Most of the time we're looking for who's not appreciating us, who's doing this or who's doing that. And with empaths it's true as well. So empaths they're slightly different because you're picking up people's feelings around you. And so therefore if somebody's very angry, you can feel that. And they might not even be close to you, might not even be able to see them, but you can feel that anger. But still, if the empath can remain focused on what it is they want, it will maneuver into the positive. Is like you can acknowledge that anger, but then what is it you want? I want people to be happy. I want people to be free. It's not that I don't want to experience the anger, because that's more of a negative. It's like I want people to be happy. I want people to be free. I want to feel my essence rather than other people's essence. Like my essence has beauty in it. There's different ways in which you can put it. Okay, thank you for your question. Skype, let's go on. I think somebody tried to call. So let's go to the person that was trying to call. S. Hi, Nick. Hi, Isabel. Hi, Thomas. Hi, Carmela. Aloha. Aloha. Hi, Anu. Hello, Lisa. They're still strongly seen waiting for some shift to happen. Okay, I just take this call. Hello, 1 second. Hello. Huh. Yeah, I can hear you. 1 second. You're just very loud. Hello? That's it. I just go into my preference and just turn you down a second. 1 sec. Just. There we go. Hello? Are you there?
Yeah. Now
Hello.
is it okay?
Yeah, it's good. It's good. I switched you over and it's working now.
Okay. Yeah.
Hello.
There's some problem looks to be on the. Anyway, like I didn't really want to put the question in writing because I was not sure like how to articulate the question, and it becomes a little easier for you to ask you the question directly.
Yes. Yeah.
So, my question is that, I feel that I am more stationed in the the place of seeing, the true place or absolute place, whatever you say, with certain amount of occasional swings, sometimes, I mean, not really. And like when I'm in the space, like, I mean, I can feel the expansion and like the distance between the personhood and myself. Now, my question to you is like, why is it not becoming a living sensation? Like something like, I mean, you don't have to ask me like, do you have a hand or something? A hand is a living sensation. So, I mean, why I'm not getting the feel of the true place as a living experience, like something really very, very animated? That's the question.
Yeah. Just give me a moment and see what comes. Oh, he got lost. He got lost. It may, so Esh Mushka, I don't know if I can. Mushka, Mushta. What is your name? S. Muko. So Hello. Hello. So I think this is about expectations, is what it is that you expect to happen. So a more lived experience. So you have a hand, and this hand or the visceral experiences of life feel more lived to you. And this perception of consciousness might still feel like a perception, or might still feel like something that comes and goes. And it might feel like in some way separate from your experience. It's something that you're conscious that you experience, or you're aware that you experience from time to time. And then you have an expectation of what something will look like. But when you really go into the subtlety of experience, so the more that your mind gets out of the way, the more that the person gets out of the way, you'll realize that it's there in everything. It's inside the visceral experience of the hand. It's inside the experience of the bottom on the seat. It's inside of the room. It's inside of the wall. It's inside of the other person. And I think it's more dismantling the identification with thoughts, with certain thoughts of what you expect it to be like and what you are expecting to happen. And the more that you lose any idea of what's going to happen, or what needs to happen, or what you want to happen, or the way in which you think you should behave, or the way in which you think this will look like, or particular experiences, particular feelings of love or bliss or expansion, the more that all of that becomes deconstructed, the more that everything that you believe is seen as a belief and not as reality. Everything you think you know is seen as a belief and not reality. And as there's this identification with this, then it begins to become more and more obvious that it's here in everything. It's not consciousness that's removed from everything. It's not consciousness that somebody sees. It's actually here in all things, right here. And it's not something that you need to know or that you need to remember. You see, you know your hand through thought. You know your leg through thought. You know your nose through thought. You don't actually know nose, hand, and foot. And so actually, when you say, you know your hand and you experience your hand, that is still an identification with a subtle form of thinking. In reality, it's mystery. It's absolute mystery. And it's the same for this. Mushko, you've got your microphone turned off. So if you turn your microphone on and you have any questions, you can chime in. But I can't hear you because your microphone is switched off. So it's all about this disidentification with everything. Every thought, every feeling, every idea. It doesn't mean these thoughts and ideas and feelings don't appear, but it's this like cutting off from identifying with them, that they're not truth, they're not reality. Even the idea of a hand, that you're experiencing a hand now or a body, this isn't reality. This is ideas. This is really subtle. It's really beautiful. And then the final disidentification I would expect, although I can't say this, is actual death of the body when the body dies, and this is total letting go of everything. I would expect, but I don't know. for me, there's still certain identifications left, the body. And I don't know if that ever goes while you're alive. I just can't imagine what that would look like. Yeah, they could go, might not, I don't know, I haven't gone that far yet. And there's still old seeking patterns that sometimes play out, like, seeking, or old habits that play out. And this is an energetic shift. It's not an intellectual thing. It's not something you get or you learn or you have. It's beyond that. It seems to begin to happen through the dismantling of the mind and what you think and perceptions and your idea of self. But it's actually really mysterious and beyond all of that as well. Yeah. But I can't, if you've got any more you'd like to say, es mushku, then you need to unmute your microphone, or I'll just hang up and I'll go on to someone else, and you can call back later when you've worked out how to do that. But thank you for your question. Bye. Yeah, so if you'd like to call in, just send me a message saying I'd like to call in, and then when I get to you, I can call in. I can call you. This is from Anu. Hi Lisa, there is still strongly seen waiting for some shift to happen or something I even do not know what. Yeah, but that's always what happens when there's identification. The person is always like, what next? What next? What next? What next? What next? Me, gift, gift, gift. And even if it like gracefully reduces, which often happens when you get into this subject, it's always going to be there while there's separation. So until there is a snap or a change that happens, that will be there, the person will be waiting for something. So it's just seen for what it is, and also seen that that's no big deal. That comes and goes in this, that comes and goes. It's all down to God. Thanks, Anu. Hi, Sebastian. Hi, Lisa. If I experience everything as myself, don't I have to be nothing? I cannot understand this, but it is an experience. Hey, Sebastian. By default, if you are everything, you're also not a thing. Not one thing. So if you are all things, then you can't be one particular thing in it. Like you can't be the plate, or you can't be the body, or you can't be the drink or the microphone or the computer, because then you would be one thing. So if you are everything, by default you're also nothing. Everyone always thinks of nothing as an experience, so it thinks of it like a big black hole in the middle of the universe, and it has this imagination of nothing, of deep sleep or something. But actually nothing doesn't mean anything, because it's not anything. So if it means anything, it's not nothing. Thanks, Sebastian, for your question. Hi, Anastasia, sorry. Hi, Lisa. You once said that when you are working on your books and scripts, you visualize the successful outcome. Could you talk about it? What are your thoughts about attaining the desired outcome? Yes, so I am a big fan of law of attraction. So if you've never heard of law of attraction, the speaker that I really resonate with and like, and I think is very sweet, is a lady called Esther Hicks, and she a being from the future speaks from her through her called Abraham Hicks, which is cuckoo in itself, but you know, like so what? We're already into there is no self. So alien speaking through future alien speaking through us. So what? It's nothing. So and And the reason I like her is that I just feel a very beautiful vibration when she's speaking about it. I think the law of attraction is like really popularized now, and a lot of people use it in coaching and selling a lot of products now. Esther Hicks, some have said like she's one of the first pioneer teachers that sort of brought it into European and American consciousness, or Western consciousness, whatever you call us. And yeah, I really like her energy when she speaks about it. It feels really pure. It sounds like it's got loads of doership in it, but it only sounds like that when you don't understand doership, when you don't understand that we are like robots. So everybody, or most people in society, believe that I get the hand, I pick up my drink, I take a drink. And they believe in that action that there is a separate entity doing that. Whereas actually, it's like a robotic response. It's the way this body's conditioned. So scientists say that we make a choice to take a drink 6 seconds, up to 6 seconds prior to the conscious recognition that it's happening. And then when we consciously recognize, so 6 seconds, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to take a drink. I mean, that is amazing. 6 seconds is a really long time. So our body has decided what it's going to do 6 seconds prior to telling us the story, I'm going to take a drink. But in that telling the story, we believe that we are somebody with free will and choice, and that we decided to take the drink. And they say, scientists, and from my observation of it, is the reason that we have these we have the appearance of choice making is because it updates the machine. So by me contemplating if I'm going to pick a coffee or a tea or a baguette, I'm updating the machine in how many calories, say, the baguette has, and health benefits of that. So I'm putting in information through the activity of apparently choosing. So it's actually a way this machine is gathering information. So it's actually really impersonal. And it's the way in which we learn, through apparently choosing. Not all the time, we also learn through other methods, but it's one way in which we learn. And so in law of attraction, to me, I see it as an update of these machines. So in learning what the law of attraction is, it's like these machines are becoming updated. It's not a person that's desiring things for the future. It's this machine learning the functioning of this life. So to me, I believe in the best language that can be put. So it's not truth, because there can be no truth, but in the best language that I found so far is that life works through this process of like attracts like, which is really beautiful. Just gives me like love bubbles just speaking about it. So like attracts like. So if you are fearing something, then that is what you will attract to you. And if you have this open, loving feeling towards something, that is what you'll attract towards you. So say if I was writing my book, and the whole time I doubted that I could do it and thought it wouldn't be successful, that I suspect is what the outcome will be. If the whole time when I'm writing my book, I have this beautiful, lovely feeling that it's going to touch lots of people and will thrive and do really well and is really beautiful, then from my experience, that is what will come about. To me, I feel like it's the law of magic. It's this magical thing that cannot be explained, that we are creating our realities, but there is no I that's creating it. So these bodies are creating their realities, and it doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense because it seems like there's all these different people that are interacting and it seems like chance. Like, how can I be creating my reality and all the other people creating their reality? But it is magical. I mean, if you look at quantum physics, it even begins to suggest this. I can't really explain to you quantum physics because it's really complex and I haven't studied that much, but from some limited understanding is that it looks like the particles behave in different... The observation of particles affects them, which is really, really stunning. So the observation of particle affects the appearance of those particles and what they do. That's really like magical. There's also another thing which I came to know recently in science, where it's like when two atoms interact. This is really, really bonkers. When two atoms interact, or particles, I don't even know what it is. I can't even remember the name of the theory, but when they interact, they, no matter how far away you take these two particles, they always move according to the other one. So if one moves this way, depending on the law of the movements, then the other moves this way, which is really bonkers. That really undoes what we believe reality to be, whereas we believe reality to kind of be this evolution process where everyone's kind of in this world together, and it's kind of like, it's just the way it is if you get run over by a car or if you get burglarized. Whereas science is beginning to question that that's not the way which reality is working. So let me give you an example on mass media platforms. So if I believe, if everybody in this world, so if something comes into fashion, say a yellow handbag, and like 1 million people start thinking about wanting a yellow handbag, I feel like this affects other people around, and then that will then, like 2 million, 3 million, 4 million people will begin to want the yellow handbag. And I think this happens in lots of different ways. Like I don't really engage that much with the media, but sometimes I find that I'm wanting something, and then when I look into media or look on the media, I notice that it's being advertised everywhere. There's also a theory by an English scientist, I forget their names now, called memes, where they believe that ideas are like genes, they evolve. They evolve by themselves. Oh, it's not. Oh, sorry, and they're always trying to evolve. So if I come up with the idea, say, of God, say nobody had ever heard of God, this idea in itself wants to evolve. So it's like a gene. So therefore, it wants other people to. Let me see what I can do. That says excellent connection. Oh, good. And so I do believe that life happens in that way. That if you have a and these are so deep sometimes, because often you don't know what you're calling into yourself. But say if you have this feeling of like people abuse you, but this is really deep, so you begin to realize that you have this feeling that people abuse you or society abuses you. I feel like that's what you're going to attract. But that's what you're going to see everywhere, is abuse, and what you're going to attract to yourself. It's only when you begin to see that people aren't, or not all people are abusive. So when you have this this feeling and this idea that people are kind and expansive, that's what you'll begin to see and attract. And this isn't meaning to hurt anyone. I know these ideas can really hurt people, especially if you've had a difficult life. But it can also be really liberating. It's like really taking responsibility for this life. But also some people have the psychology where they beat themselves up a lot, and so therefore they hear these ideas and then they just use it as another weapon to beat them up and say, yeah, I fucked up. I even like now calling in all this abuse, all this negativity to me. And that's the wrong attitude. It's like, it's totally impersonal that this is happening, but it's the way it happens. If you think about a story, so you've got this cat, or not cat, you've got an animal that's always really positive thinking, a bit like Horton Hears a Who. You've got this elephant who's so positive thinking and all these difficult events happen, but he only ever sees the positive, and so in the end he succeeds. And we know this story constantly in literature. Like we hear this again and again, like a being that has this positivity and in the end prevails. So when I try to do things, I can't say that I always do it like this. Like sometimes fear or something takes over. But when I try to do things, I try to do it out of that place of expansiveness. And it's so when I'm writing my book that I'm currently writing, I just love it, and I just know of its success. I can feel it. And it's really expansive and beautiful. And this is the way in which, ideally, a balanced human wants to predominantly be acting from. Pardon me. So you have this chakra system, and when you're not acting out of separation and like trying to avoid your experience because of fear and anxiety, and you become more balanced, then you want to pay attention to when your chakras close to things and when they say no to things, but not in an identified way, in a free way. And then you want to move towards the things that make you expansive. So for example, say if I was in the supermarket and I was buying food, like you want to move away from buying the foods where your body in a balanced way says no and an expanded way says yes. And this is the way life works in everything, in writing, in relationships. So it's so beautiful. Like, what is it you want from a relationship? So often we try to fix relationships out of difficulty. So we go to a counsellor and we say, this is what's difficult, which can be beneficial because then you can understand what you want and what you don't want. That can be the first level. But then eventually, what actually really needs to change is what your core desires are. Like, not what your core desires are, it's like what needs to change is a movement to what your core desires are. And your deep down desire is to be in harmony with your partner, is to love your partner, is to watch your partner flourish, is to watch you two flourish. It's just that when you're on more surface ones, you're on identification, you might be in hate and revenge and blame and shame. But underneath that, of course, what you want is for them to flourish, for them to succeed, for you to succeed. And it's moving down like to your original impulses of expansion and moving away from, so your way you orientate yourself is you move to that which is expansive. And that's so obvious because we're set up as these pleasure-pain beings, so you move towards pleasure and you move away from pain. That's the natural impulses of our body. But because we identify, it becomes also complicated and we get into blame, all these stories, this negativity. And of course you want everyone around you to thrive. Of course you want your book to thrive. And then you move away from the no's. So when somebody's coming with negative energy, you don't want to be in that. So there's this no energy that comes to it. And actually I believe that deep down, like everybody has this positivity in them, this childlike wonder, like we're born with it. We just get talked out of it and we get so identified and into seeking and trying to maintain pleasure. That's the other key to it, to law of attraction, is that you can't be identified with the outcome. So it's not about the outcome, really. I know it sounds like it's about the outcome, but it's not. It's in the moment. It's you say what you want, like the success. So I don't even want success for the book. I just feel it's successful. It just is successful. And then, but even if you say you want success, I forgot what I was saying. Yeah, I forgot what I was bleeping on about then. What was she bleeping on about? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I forgot what I was saying, so I have to move on now. Yeah. Okay. But what about the doubt? I can artificially make myself feel hopeful about the future outcome if I'm ridden with doubt and fear. Yeah, so that's like more on the surface. So this is where you have to work with yourself. So you've got like deep down, you have these positive feelings, and then you have these doubts. And this is when your chakra system is out of balance because of separation and seeking. Oh yeah, I was talking about outcome before. So it's not about the outcome. It's like you give it to God. So it's actually about this moment. It's actually about vibrating in this moment in beauty. So it's like so with the book when I'm writing, it's not that I'm thinking I want it to be successful. It just is successful, and there's a vibration with that, and I'm just envisioning it going out to people and just is successful. It just is magical. But it's not really about the outcome. It's about this moment. It's about you being true to your feelings in this moment. And then you give it to God. You give it to life. Like the outcome then is in life hand. The perfect outcome will arise as long as your intention is correct. And that actually might be that only one person reads my book. And if that is the case, that is exactly what is meant to happen. And that's its beauty. So it's not about attachments to the future. So the reason that you're riddled with doubt and insecurities is identification, seeking patterns that have emerged that you might have picked up from your parents or might have formed in this life or is just from humanity. And this sends your chakra system out of sync, and then you begin to get into worry and anxiety, and then that's more of a surface level that you have to heal first. So then it's healing that. Underneath you have that positivity there, and it's just coming down to it. And maybe throughout the day, the anxiety might leave and you'll feel that expansiveness. So first of all, then, in that case, is you have to be realistic. So say if you're thinking about, I don't know, your future creative project. I know that you're a writer, so you're thinking about your work, and anxiety comes and you think you're going to fail and not do well. You first of all just have to admit that to yourself, because often we don't admit that to ourselves. Often we're blaming someone else for our failure, we're blaming our environment, we're blaming this or we're blaming that, or we're blaming life circumstances. So first of all, you've got to admit, I feel really insecure and I feel like I'm going to fail and I'm afraid I'm going to fail. And that can even happen to me sometimes. It doesn't happen so much with the book, but sometimes with my dyslexia and paperwork, I can sometimes get knocked over by the bandwagon and feel like I'm going to fuck up my paperwork and get in trouble. And then luckily I can shift it quite quickly. When I see that thought coming, I can feel it, and then I can say to myself, what is it you want? And it's success with my paperwork. Like, I want to be successful with my paperwork and complete it and enjoy it. So first of all, you have to acknowledge it, and you have to be honest, and you have to get to the core of the thoughts. So you've got all these surface thoughts. It's their fault, it's their fault, it's because I fucked up this, it's because this is happening, it's because that's happening. And then you have to get to the core of it, and it's, I feel like I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail, I'm not going to do well, no one's going to love me, I'm going to be abandoned. And you get to that thought, and you can do some like trauma release or healing by, where did you learn that thought? Where is it coming from? Like, do you remember it from childhood? And then maybe you remember like being really unpopular at school, or people bullying you or telling you couldn't do it. So you associate it with a couple of things maybe. Just really get to know it and really become friends with it and see how it's affecting you in your life, like when you're interacting with someone, how it's there. So just giving it attention and giving it time. And then at some point you'll feel like, you'll know when it's ready you transform it to the opposite, and you ask that feeling, what is it that I want? And then that feeling says, I want to be loved and I want to be successful. And then when you're ready, that will pick up that vibration and put it into the positive. And as you say that, I want to be liked and I want to be successful and I want to thrive, your chakra will go into the positive and vibrate in the positive. So that is the process. I hope I say it clear enough. Sometimes I sound complex. Thank you for your question, Anastasia. Hi, Lisa. How can the person break the identification with an ego thought? The person which you want to break the ego thought is the ego, is the illusory self. So it can't really, because whatever you break it with breaks another. What Ramana Maharshi used to say was that you use one thorn to remove another thorn, but you throw both thorns out. Like you see, it's also an illusion. An ego thought of who I am is that I was good at school, and now whatever I'm doing a study, I feel a lot of fear of not being able to live up to that ego thought. I feel that in my chest, in my throat, and between my shoulder blades. Is there anything the illusion of a separate me can do to stop that identification? Yes, like I described to the last person, Anastasia, that is my process that I recommend. Sometimes you need aid in doing it because it's not the easiest process to see, and it takes time because you've got to get to know your body and you've got to get to know your feelings. And then you've got to be able to get to the base of the feelings. If when it so quickly jumps up into the story of you, like, I hate this person, I'm a failure, and it's really getting to the deep depth of the feeling. Each chakra has its base feelings, and you have to get down to that and be really honest and feel it in your body, and then really understand what it is that you want. Like, because actually, even though you do want to succeed at school, what's actually happening in you is deeper than that. Like you're actually feeling on a deeper level like a failure. And then on a deeper level than a failure is that what you fear is that if you fail, you'll be abandoned and kicked out by society. That's your deepest fear, that if you fail, you'll be alone and abandoned and won't be able to pay for your food or your rent. And you have to get down to that feeling and really feel it and really acknowledge it. Acknowledge how that appeared from the past, how that happened, how that came into your consciousness. And really come to terms with that, accept that, and give it space to be there. And then, once you've given it enough space, what is it you want? Is it you want to flourish? You want to succeed, you want to grow, you want to expand, but you can't force that onto you. Thank you for your question. Hi, Dennis. Hi, Lisa. The comment you made today that this is just an excuse to sit and share in this energy is spot on. I just noticed I sent this comment to you last year. Whenever you sit in silence, there is an energy that is felt here, there, and everywhere. Maybe someday we can talk about silence. Much love, Dennis. Lisa, the law of attraction. Have you heard of Abraham Hicks? Oh yeah, that's the person I was talking about that I like. Yeah, it's really beautiful. Yeah, maybe one day we talk about silence. Hello, Nat. Hello, it's Natalie from Vancouver, Canada. Hi, Natalie. I feel lately, after years of awakenings and opening and much reconditioning of my system after trauma, now I'm finding the remaining sense of self has a strong death wish and depression. I know this is not my true nature, but can you offer anything in this area? Yeah. You look so young to have been doing years and years of it. Maybe that's not your true picture. So to me, the feeling of the death wish comes from the solar plexus. So thoughts aren't just solar things that happen in the imagination, they're a bodily experience. So the feelings and the thoughts are interconnected. So to me, the thoughts appear, and who knows what's first, but it's part of the solar plexus going into its negative. And who knows if it's the thoughts that make the solar plexus or the solar plexus that creates the thoughts. It's kind of irrelevant. The solar plexus is, in its positive, it's a sense of I can do it, I can succeed, I can thrive, I'm healthy, I have power, I have stamina, I know what I want, I can say what I want, I know how to do things. And in its negative, it's stuckness, hopelessness, helplessness, depression, sense of wanting to die, frustration, anger, stuckness, aloneness, existential angst. And it's a very powerful point. So sometimes in Chinese medicine, it's described as the center of the sense of self, particularly because it's about wants and desires. And when the solar plexus is out of balance, and you are in its negative, then that's where suicidal thoughts come from and dying comes from. And sometimes the death wish comes because it's not actually because you want to die, it's because it's actually giving you an option. So it's like you have a way out. It's like an imagination of a way out. And sometimes this can get really stimulated from years and years of spiritual practice, especially in non-duality. Like if you look at Eckhart Tolle, like his solar plexus was really like in its negative before he had this big shift and awakening. And the reason that might be is because it is true, life is meaningless and pointless. Like, it's really bonkers, like just like running around in circles, really. Not that that's a bad thing, but we every day we collect our food, we cook our food, we eat our food, we do it again and again and again and again and again, and it doesn't have a destination. It's not like at the end of this you're going to go to heaven or hell. It's like this endless play of no thing appearing as everything. But this is a joyful thing. It's not a negative thing. But sometimes it happens in spiritual seeking because you lose your faith in life. You lose your faith in anything in time making you happy. Like, so getting the boyfriend or girlfriend or having kids or buying a big house or having lots of money or being really successful, none of it stimulates you anymore. And that can be good because it can stop you reaching out so much into time, but it also can come with a sense of depression because your mind can't imagine hope and so therefore can't pull your solar plexus into the positive. It can't think, I'm going to make it when I do this or get to enlightenment or do that. So it can also come with spirituality. It can also be the most amazing thing if you were to see through that illusion now. That you're wanting to die, that your depression, that your frustration, that your discomfort, that none of it's true. It's an impersonal appearance happening and it's not true. The feelings aren't true. And that's so intense to see though, because when that veil comes, it feels so real and everything in life seems coloured by that. And then you could ask, well, who sees that? And it's even though it might seem like it's you seeing it, it's actually a movement, it's a disidentification. So if you listen to the story of the Buddha sat under the Bodhi tree, and Maya illusion presented heaven and hell. And what do you think hell was? Like, they describe it as war, but it also is depression, it's also hate, envy, frustration, suicidal thinking. Like, it's all these things. And the Buddha sat still. So when they say the Buddha, they actually mean Buddha nature. His name is actually Gautama. So when they say the Buddha sat still, so to me, what that means is that there was a recognition of something that never changes, that isn't depressed, that isn't suicidal, that isn't affected by this. So the Buddha sat still. So for 40 days and 40 nights, Maya presented illusion, the Buddha sat still, and then it was seen. Then the liberation happened, it was seen. So it's also this hell that's rising, it's seeing that it's not true, it's not your reality. There's practical things that you can also do to lift up the solar plexus as well. So first of all, it's seeing that it's not true, it's not real, and then it's speaking it out, like what it is the solar plexus is saying. You can also do movements, you can do exercises, you can do chakra breathing on it, like to get that energy out. And then it's moving to the positive. So what is it the solar plexus wants? And the solar plexus wants to be able to choose. It wants to feel like it has power over its environment, that it can choose, that it can create for its future. So you use all of this to pick the solar plexus into the positive, pick it up and pick it into the positive. What else is the positive of the solar plexus? It wants to feel like it can do something, that there is hope. So that's a practice that you can do. But the most important thing is seeing that it's not true, that it's not your truth, it's not who you are. It's an experience appearing in a freedom that's already there. So who are you? And then you can do these exercises to try and shift it out of that. Yeah. Thank you for your question, Natalie. If you've got any more questions, please write away. Well, I think you all resonates. Yeah, you can watch it back. You can watch it back. And so there's two different parts. It's seeing that it's not true, and then you're using the wanting to try to transform it. Because sometimes it can be like that contraction can come before there's a big shift. So sometimes there can be like a strong contraction before a big shift. So it's just seeing that it's not true. And sometimes it's a habit that you've been telling yourself that your whole life, and it's something that you actually need to practically work on to try to shift. Hey Tanya, thanks for the live streams. For me, what explains it best is the distance between two of our body atoms is actually infinite. Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah, thanks, Tanya. That's really beautiful. Quantum entanglement. Oh yeah, two entangled particles can only be described completely when described together and can no longer be completely described separately. In some very deep sense, they become somewhat one, even if physically apart, even if entire star systems separate them. Isn't that amazing? That's just mind-blowing. We really have no freaking idea how this universe works. Hi Lisa, hi Walter, sorry. Wow, that's lots of question. Hello Lisa. Thank you for all you do. Can you describe what the process is for facing thoughts, feelings and emotions? In other words, after an awakening experience, we notice thoughts and feelings still arising sometimes. and they can still be uncomfortable. Can you share how you deal with them, please? Thank you. So I think I've answered a lot of them, Walter. I've just begun to witness. Hi, Lola. Hi, Lisa. How can the person break the identification? Oh, thank you. Okay. Nice. Okay, we've come to the end of the questions now. I know it's not true, but the using, the wanting is helpful. Great help, thanks. Pleasure, Natalie. Yes, we come to the end now. My partner has just helpfully reminded me by moving around next door. I get the sense telepathically that that was his intention. He's like, "Woman, I want my dinner." Yes, so I'm going to go now and we're going to have our dinner. He doesn't respond because he doesn't want to be on the internet. Just stays silent. Don't think he doesn't hear. Okay, yeah, so thank you, and I shall see you next Sunday. I wish you lots of love and everything. I wish you everything. Bye-bye.